I'm Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, and this is What the Heck, the podcast that dives into what the heck is going on in the world of health and well-being, explores how to optimize your mindset and your lifestyle, and shares practical tools so that you can achieve your fullest potential. Join me and a special guest each week as we discuss everything from biohacking to diet personalization to cutting-edge detox methods to setting and staying accountable to your goals. Ready to find out what the heck you can do to stay healthy, sharp, and at the top of your game? Let's get started. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp and welcome to this week, the What the Heck podcast. I have a bigger smile on my face because when you see your producer just dancing on his chair, you know, what is not to put a smile on your face. So today, the topic of the podcast is it healthy or not? Part 2, because on last week's episode, I talked about 5 different myths, basically, that people have about health, and I'd like to continue on that note. So is it healthy or not? And I think what we have to understand is that we are all unique. I can't say how often I'm being asked question, Nathalie, is the ketogenic diet good? Is this good? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's just so hard to answer on, you know, this question when you don't know what is going on with the person. So I think if anything with this podcast today, I'd really like you to look at the myths and the questions that I'm asking and ask yourself the question, how is this relevant to you? And what should you or can you dig deeper on to figure out what is the right thing for you? So it is going to be a true or false. And let's start with the first myth. True or false? It's normal to be experiencing fatigue and PMS symptoms and have low libido as you age. And I always joke when I do, ask this question on a stage or in a crowd. I always say, man in the room, if your wife is beside you, do not answer this question. But joke aside, a lot is being blamed for age. Let alone that fact, but also as women, we're being told that it's normal to have PMS symptom, to be moody, to have, all the side effects that seem to come with our cycle. So true or false? And the answer to that is obviously it depends, because it depends on the person and it depends on what the person needs to focus on. So first thing, when it comes to energy, that I think a lot of people overlook looking at their thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is basically, it's our master gland for metabolism, and it works as a team with all the other glands in the body. And if the thyroid gland is not working optimally, fatigue is one of the major symptoms. Other symptoms could be being cold all the time, hard to lose weight, thinning of hair as well. So there's a battery of symptoms that a person can experience. And one of the things that you can do is make sure that you get your thyroid tested. Now, it can be hypo. Those are the symptoms that I talked about. It could be hyper as well. But when our thyroid gland is out of balance, it can really, really affect our energy level and our fatigue. So very important to get that tested. If the numbers come back, especially the TSH, because this is kind of the general test that will be done for the thyroid gland. If it comes back within the range, we have to ask ourselves, is it the functional range or the lab range? Because lab range are important and they're a good guideline to look at the numbers, but each lab will be different. We want to look more at the functional range, which is what the body needs to work optimally. And then if you're still feeling some of the symptoms, there are different more extensive thyroid panel that you can do, conversion of the T4 to T3, and all of those ratios can be measured. So let's look at the thyroid. When it comes to PMS and anything that is affecting our sex hormone, one thing that I find that is also overlooked are xenoestrogens. So basically, xenoestrogen are estrogen that are foreign to the body and that are coming from a lot of the products that we're using out there. And they're basically man-made estrogen. And what happens is that it confuses the body because the estrogen binding to the receptor sends a signal to the cell of what to do. But if there are xenoestrogen attaching to the receptor on our cell, then it's going to scramble the signal and there's going to be miscommunication. And we are bombarded by xenoestrogen, unfortunately, and a lot of people are what's called estrogen dominant. And if on top of that, our liver is not working optimally to flush those metabolites of estrogen and flush those toxins, the person can really have some symptoms. So just to go back to, is it normal to experience all that? No, it's not. And we have to look into the overall picture of the person. In my book, Hack Your Health Habit, and in my online coaching program, I have a whole section on toxins and organic food and our products. So people can really do a spring cleaning of their homes and their beauty products. So it is spring right now, so good time to bring this upon this point. What's relevant to you? Well, exactly this. What are you using in your home? What are you using to clean? What are you using to wash your clothes and the dryer sheets and all of those things, they add up. So I think it's really important to do an inventory, and it's easy to do when you go do groceries. What's in your cart? What are you buying? And the more you simplify your cleaning products, the more, and your beauty products, the less you have to buy, because you're using things that are not just less toxic, but you really limit or decrease the amount of products that you're using. So little homework here is, next time you go do your groceries and you're buying all of those products, pay attention, one, to make sure that they're not toxic, but what else could you be using to minimize using these products? And what I mean by this is that at our house, I use 2 cleaning cloths that we use, and then 2 basic products that we use for the entire house. So there's not a lot of the products that we're using. Cleaning our clothes, dryer sheets, we have the dryer balls, just to, again, make sure that we're decreasing that those chemicals. Other true or false here is it's almost impossible to not catch a cold. And this is such a kind of I think everybody's going to say, oh, if you're exposed to some bugs, you're going to catch a cold. And of course, if your immune system is decreased, you are going to catch a cold. And it seems that there are cold seasons that are affecting us more. And it is a reality, but also during some peak time, weather really changes, and there's drastic changes, and the lifestyle is also changing. More indoor, more sugar are consumed. So I think it's not as straightforward to say it's cold season. There are other factors that can come in play, and that brings me to really focus on strengthening our immune system. And I know it sounds really cliche, because it seems that every podcast we talk about sleep, but sleep is so crucial for us to recharge our body, recharge our battery. I always compare it to plugging our cell phone at night to recharge a battery. We need to do the same thing. There is so many things that get recharged with growth hormone, balancing the cortisol and so forth when we sleep. So it's crucial. Eating our vegetables and eating our phytonutrients, meaning the color of the rainbow, is also crucial, because each color will bring a different nutrient into the body. So it's very important to eat a variety of food, vegetables first, some fruits, obviously, but we want to be cognizant to the fact that fruits are also sugar. And then also exercising, making sure that we're moving. Exercise has been shown to increase the efficiency of the immune system. And obviously, as a chiropractor, I have to point out to the fact that balancing your nervous system can have a huge impact, because the nervous system controls every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. So those 4 things are really important. And then adding to this, the importance of keeping our gut healthy. Here are some cool stats here for you. We humans have 10 trillion cells, and our microbiome has 100 trillion cells. So this is a 1 to 10 ratio. This is huge. And as human, we have about 23,000 genes, and our microbiome has about 33 million. So this is a 1 to 150 ratio. So I keep joking that we really need to keep our bugs happy. And if they're not happy, it's going to lead to some issues. And I put here the infectious continuum. If we go right to the middle, you can see that symbiosis means your gut microflora and your gut bacteria are in balance. They're happy. But if we swing too much to the left or too much to the right, it is creating some issues. So let's start with the left, because I think people don't realize that allergy and eczema and all those things, that those symptoms that people experience, it's kind of the first stage of our body telling us our immune system is not working properly. And then further down, it really is leading to autoimmune diseases. And it is obviously very common, well, not obviously, but it is very common now for people to have autoimmune diseases, hypothyroidism being one of them. But if we go on the right side, dysbiosis can lead to irritable bowel syndrome, which is something that a lot of people have been diagnosed with. And then further down, it can literally be an infection with a pathogen. So we want to stay in the middle. We want to have that gut balance and that symbiosis. And why do I bring this? Because 80% of our immune system is in our gut. So it is crucial for us to keep our gut bacteria happy and strong. And that is paying attention to our digestive system. And this is how it's relevant, is that if you have digestive issues, if you have heartburn, constipation or diarrhea, or you get bloated easily and you seem to get sick more so than other people, really dial in to your food, what you're eating for sensitivity, making sure that you're supporting your digestion properly so your food can be absorbed properly, and that you're not leading yourself to having leaky gut syndrome or irritable bowel syndrome. So really important point. True or false, brain decline is something normal that occurs with age. And unfortunately, the stats are staggering now when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer. And Alzheimer, many of you may already know that, has now been called type 3 diabetes, because research is now showing that the pancreas is not the only organ producing the insulin, that the brain does as well, and that this brain insulin is necessary for the survival of our brain cells. So insulin also help with neuronal glucose uptake, and the regulation of our neurotransmitter, especially acetylcholine, which is related with memory and learning. And this is why reducing our level of insulin in the brain impairs our cognition. So a lot can be done monitoring and being careful with our sugar intake, because all of that can lead to atrophy of the brain. Brain diabetes has also been said to be responsible for for glaucoma, according to some recent study. Fluctuation in insulin production in your brain may contribute to the degeneration of brain cell. And study have found that people with lower levels of insulin and insulin receptor in the brain often develop Alzheimer's. So there's a lot more to know when it comes to the brain, but we're already paying a lot more attention to that brain inflammation. Great side note here, but Dr. Mark Hyman recently did a great documentary called Broken Brain. So if you have family members or people around you that are affected by dementia and Alzheimer, or if you want to prevent dementia and brain inflammation from setting in, great documentary to watch. Also, keeping our brain sharp. There are tons of things that we can do with reading, learning new skills. And as we age, we have a tendency to get comfortable in doing the same thing. So tricking ourselves, or I shouldn't say tricking, but challenging ourselves to do things differently, taking a different route to go somewhere, learning to keep piano or something that will require your brain to fire differently, I think is very important. So what's relevant to you here is looking at your sugar intake. And, and again, a lot of time people will say, well, I'm being careful and I don't really need to lose weight. This is not just about weight loss. Decreasing your sugar intake is about decreasing inflammation in your body as a whole, and not just for you to not be sore, but also for the inflammation that it can create in the brain. So do an inventory if lately you've been kind of slacking off on your sugar consumption, and make sure that you're also eating enough of the good fat, because the brain has a huge component of cholesterol, and the cell membranes also require fat to function properly and for nerve conduction as well. So decreasing sugar and making sure that you got a moderate intake of the good fat, like salmon, avocados, nuts, any type of fish, but the more fatty fish for sure. Coconut oil is also another one. Next, true or false, my yearly blood tests came back all normal. I have a clean bill of health. And this one is one that I would say also it depends. It depends on what is being tested. Unfortunately, depending on what the basic tests are in your state, in your province, in your country, getting a clean bill of health from basic tests is sadly not enough. And there are other tests that you can do to make sure that you're not deficient in certain minerals and vitamins. It's basically looking at nutritional evaluation. So there's a lot more that can be done, and with a variety of tests. And I always encourage people to see their natural health practitioner to get a more in-depth evaluation to make sure that all of those markers are in check. And part of that too is looking at your genetic, looking at your microbiome, because you can really tune in. There are some tests that you can do. And when I say genetic, I'm not saying, genetic from necessarily the things you can't do anything about, but genetic meaning little errors in our code that then you can support by changing your lifestyle or supplementing with different products. So there are a multitude of companies out there looking at the influence of our genes. Pure Genomic is one of them. And then when it comes to gut health, Viome is another option to literally know how our gut health is, and if we have enough of the good bacteria versus the bad bacteria. So all of those things are now accessible to us, and the price has tremendously decreased because it's more readily available. So the question to you is, first of all, have you had a full checkup with your primary healthcare practitioner? And then are there things that you should be digging a little bit deeper? Are there symptoms that you're kind of brushing off that you really should pay attention to? Last question here. True or false, meditation is the best way to recharge yourself? And again, I think it depends. And my point with this is that a lot of people are scared or feel intimidated by meditation. I always joke, you don't have to become a monk and move to Tibet to become to become better at meditating. But meditation is definitely a great way for us to become more mindful, and it doesn't have to be long. It can be done anywhere. There's great apps now that you can use if you have some issues. I know I'm a big fan of the brain tap technology, their guided meditation, and I know that there are tons of other tools out there for us to take the time to disconnect. And I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive to take a nap to disconnect, but that's more for the guided meditation part, is to disconnect from the world, make sure that we tune in into ourselves, and that we are also breathing, because all of those things are just creating that centering aspect and the awareness. So all those 5 things were myths that hopefully made you reflect on how it is affecting you in your life, and what are the things that you can do to dig deeper. Because I know sometimes people will say, oh my goodness, it's so overwhelming. And please try not to see it that way. See it that health is truly a journey, and our needs are changing as we age. Our needs are changing with what is happening around us, but we have so many more tools now to help us and guide us. So, find the people that can help you do all these things and keep you accountable, and decipher that information. And my book, Hack Your Health Habit, is a great way, or a great place to start, with 62 different chapters that are touching on all these things, so you can get a basic understanding, and then you can start digging deeper. And I will leave you on this thought here, that if you change one thing a month, which is pretty doable to change one habit, one health habit, you're going to change 12 things during a year. So 12 things can really make an impact. And I'm a big fan of adding good things as opposed to removing, so people don't feel deprived of things. So what is it for this month, for the month, that of April, what is it that you can add of all the things that I talked about into your daily routine to make you move forward, or a step closer to having more of the good habits? Because there is definitely a domino effect, that the more of the good things that we do, the more momentum we have, and we want to do more. So my goal, as you probably know, is to really help people become health hackers. So the information for the podcast every week is all about that. And when I bring guests, is because they have expertise and knowledge of the tools that I've talked about, or other tools, to really help you hack your health and become a health hacker. And we can be at any different stages in our lives. We're all on the journey to get ourselves better. So this was Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp for the What the Heck podcast. And this week was all about myths that hopefully I busted, and I made you think of the things that you can do. So I will see you next week on our next episode of the What the Heck podcast. Have a great week. I'm Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, and this is What the Heck, the podcast that dives into what the heck is going on in the world of health and well-being, explores how to optimize your mindset and your lifestyle, and shares practical tools so that you can achieve your fullest potential. Join me and a special guest each week as we discuss everything from biohacking to diet personalization to cutting-edge detox methods to setting and staying accountable to your goals. Ready to find out what the heck you can do to stay healthy, sharp, and at the top of your game? Let's get started. This has been a Wellness on the Go production.